already know, we have an academy that took place in Tacoma, an academy that took place in Bellevue, in Mukilteo, Everett, and Renton. And so representing, I believe, up to about 10 school districts. Is that correct, Clara? And we had over 130 family members participate in our academy last week. So it was incredible for us. And so we're excited to have you all join together. And so the virtual environment provides us the magic of being able to get to be together like this, but also presents challenges. And I think utilizing the virtual environment gives us an opportunity to use a tool. And so as family members, and many of you have already used Zoom before, but how do we use Zoom in a way that makes it accessible to all people? And I think it's an opportunity for us to grow some of that skill and experience, to use it in a way where we bring so many people together, across a pretty big area, people of different languages, different knowledge of utilizing the technology. So thank you for allowing us to present, but also to learn with us. Glada, would you like to say anything before we begin?
No, I think you're good. We can go ahead and move on, and then I will reintroduce myself later on. Thank you.
Okay. All right. It's an opportunity for you all to check in with each other. That's the important piece. In a lot of this academy, um, if you were at the academy last week, I think one of the things that we've shared was that your connection with each other is really the most important thing that comes from this experience, because you all are a part of your own communities, maybe already know each other. And as you're working towards a project, the things that you want to do, you're likely to be working with each other. In our organization, we come in and support and we work with school teams. But again, that's really the important piece with your interpreter. And just to share what we're going to cover for the rest of the evening, we're going to go into what we call community agreements. We'll share a little bit more about what that is, go into the conversation around the leadership project, some storytelling, and that last bullet, you'll see homework. And so we do have another assignment that we would like to get to. Um, and so that's going to be our evening. And so to share a little bit about community agreements. Um, Community agreements, I think, can be really useful when people are working together for a common goal. Community agreements are kind of like rules for each other. And a lot of times educators will have community agreements with each other. Sometimes they are formal or informal. Um, but it's a way that you are,
Mhm,
some promises that you have of
mhm,
yourself
mhm.
and of others. And they can be really useful so that you feel that you are working together in the same goal and in good spirit. Um, and what we're going to spend some time doing is having you all come up with your own community agreements. And so the reason that we have them is so that everyone feels honored, everyone feels valued when you're meeting. Um, and especially when you have some, challenges as you're working together, being able to come back and say, let's be sure that we're honoring our community agreements that we had at the very beginning can be really important to help you continue to move forward. And I also think it's just an opportunity to model to young people, how adults work together. And, I think of community agreements because there are formal community and there are informal community agreements. And when I spend like time with my family, I tell my like my partner, like, when we go to my family's house, or we go to the carne asada, or we spend time, like there's like expectations, especially with like my elders, my tias and tios, my uncles and aunts, and how we just the agreement of respect, of kindness. Oftentimes, like I come into a family setting where I'll immediately address some of their needs, like see if they need some food, see if they're taken care of, if they have something to drink. It's kind of like for me, a way to how I conduct myself with family. It's not a community agreement. It's just something that's informal. I think community agreements, though, can be a little bit more planned out. And so when we start getting to this plan of a leadership project, and especially if you're working together, having your agreements at the very beginning can be useful. So we're going to spend some time working towards building out some community agreements. And there are two kinds of community agreements. There are community agreements that are relational, and there are community agreements that are what we would call operational. A relational community agreement would be something like kindness, fairness, respect, um, humor, maybe. There's a whole list of what you would think of as a community agreement when you come into a group. This is what you're asking of others and what you are offering of yourself. And it's very much based on the relationship. And I think a good place to think about community agreements is if you remember the core activity, core values activity, a lot of those words were very relational. And so thinking about what's important to me is to kind of think about that core activity, what stood out to you. That might be a community agreement for yourself. An operational community agreement would be something like, being on time with your group, or, if somebody says they're going to do something, you having the expectation that they're going to have it done. So maybe it's like accountability or they're completing tasks. Those are the things that, you're just asking for people to have done, in other words. And those can be really useful so that you can depend on each other. There's some accountability, and you feel like you're being able to move the project forward. And we're not going to get into the group breakout, but I think this is something for us to kind of work through to start off with, because what we want to be able to end the evening with is for you all to start putting together your community agreements. And, we have a lot of people here, and there will probably be a lot that's shared that's very similar with each other, right? And um, we would be able to, we would otherwise have this in a small group, but I think we can do this. We can try this out in this larger group. So you'll notice we have our chat open. And so what we can do is start building out some community agreements. What we're going to do is compile that list so that we have something available when we start the next session to say, this is what we heard back. These are the things that were said over and over and over. And these are the things that will probably be really valuable as a community agreement for the Natural Leaders Program. Yeah. So let's spend a few minutes in the chat writing out what you think is important for a community agreement um, that's relational. So again, going back to the core values, and then one that's operational. So maybe a little bit more task oriented. So in the chat, you can start writing it out. And as you're writing out, I want to invite people, if you have, a thought about it or a question, you can just raise your hand and unmute yourself, and I'll call on people to be able to share out. And in the meantime, if you want to start writing in the chat, um, some of the community agreements that are important to you. Okay. And I see people are starting to write in. That's excellent. I see open to listening, empathy, respect. And just to kind of give you an example how I've used this with other groups before, I've had groups of people that I've worked with as teams, and we would have them, go through these community agreements. And I think at first it feels a little what's the word for it? Like abstract. It's kind of you're putting something together and you're not really sure why it's going to matter later. And, we'll usually do this at the very beginning when I work with teams of people. And then what happens later, especially when the group is starting to come up with ideas and make decisions, sometimes there's disagreement, and there's nothing wrong with disagreement. I think sometimes tension can be a good thing to grow and learn. But what happens is that people kind of forget the community agreements about respect or taking turns to talk or allowing others to talk so people don't dominate a conversation. And when it gets to that point, we can go back and say, well, what are our community agreements so that we're honoring how we started off with? And it was always a way to kind of go back and say, okay, this is what we've agreed to. Let's be sure that we honor it. Because you don't always know what may come up later, but if you at least ground it with what's important to you, what you can promise of yourself, and what you are asking, it can be really useful. Yeah, please. It's a
So I put for relational compassion, especially during Zoom, be having grace on ourselves and others. For operational agreement, I put being like active engagement, proactive when issues arise, just being on it.
Mhm.
I use Google Translate to put it in Spanish, but I'm gonna try in Spanish. Um, I don't know, what is it? Compasión con nosotros y con otros. Y I don't know how to say operational. Um, pero sí, compasión con nosotros y también si ves un problema, querer ayudar a tus compañeros. Yeah, that's us.
Yeah,
I'll
thank you for
probably let
sharing.
the professional translators do that.
Itzel, you shared active engagement, I think is what the word that you use. Can you maybe share a
Sí.
little more about what you mean by that?
Yeah, active engagement, like you know, answering questions or asking questions or wanting to know more about other families, being curious about others and what they're going through. Um, so just being actively engaging versus just coming and not doing anything or answering anything or just like not wanting to know what other parents are going through, just making the best out of the time.
Hmm. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And I believe Vidani had a hand raised as well. Like,
Yes, I wanted to just share mine too. For relational, I put down more, I'm just like a big outside the box thinker. So I put like innovative, being open-minded, and will it make a difference? Like, so whenever you think of something, is it gonna help make a difference to the community? And then good communication, but with transparency. So I feel that's very important to talk, when you talk to someone, say what you mean. Um, and so you're not getting surprised at the end, at an end result with your group. And then for my, I have to go down my little chat window because for my other one, I put operational was cost effective, being on time, having reasonable tasks for everybody, and equal tasks for everybody, like the shared reasonable tasks, but shared tasks and deadlines that actually can be reached. So if it's like within a school year, make sure that the deadlines can be reached within that school year, where it's not like overflowing to the next year and you kind of forget. So I just didn't really know the right words for that.
Hmm. That's really good. That's really good. It's a very like process oriented
I'm a
community
teacher,
agreement.
so I like very weirdly organized.
That's wonderfully organized. Okay, we can maybe take one more. Anyone else like to share?
I can share. So I put empathy because everyone has different backgrounds. So I feel like we have to be careful with others. And I also put responsibility because we are all for this to really do something. So we should put like effort on it, not just stay here and listen to everyone, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Gabriela. And and as we go through these activities and these projects, I hope you are able to really take from this academy what you might find useful in other places. So if you're a part of other groups, please, borrow this activity. It's not anything that we've designed ourselves, just like the core activity, but it does help everyone ground themselves, find ways to work with each other. And this community agreement one I think is really important. So the next session will consolidate the list and be able to share out what you all have come up with. All right, so we'll move along. And so what I'm going to do next is a practice that we had started last week. So if you noticed last week, we really emphasized storytelling. And the reason why we emphasize storytelling, because it is a way to communicate that we all have access to. And the reason why I think that's important for, as someone who's been in an educator for 20, 25 years, I know it's really easy to fall into um, like the educator language and maybe show up in a way where I feel like I'm just the title of who I am. And I have to remind myself I'm more than just a title. I'm a person. You know, I am a son. I am a father. I am a husband. I am a lot of things. And so for me, it really gives me a chance to tap into my true self. And I hope it invites other people to really show up as their true self. And I think just sharing story for me is far more engaging and interesting than, facilitators giving a presentation. Okay. So we're going to come back, we're going to go back to some of this storytelling. And in this case, and what we're going to practice for the next few academies sessions is storytelling and connecting it with um, uh, opportunities, experiences, especially for young people. They may be our own children or maybe our own experiences, so that the stories have a connection to almost like this life after high school. Many of us are here for our own kids, and that's, priority. And so I think there's an opportunity to share story and learn from each other, and then kind of share what we've experienced for ourselves and for our children. So I'm going to model it. I know Glada and I were sharing quite a bit of stories last week. I'm going to model another one, and then we're actually going to invite some of you all into some storytelling, not for today, but for the next couple sessions. So let me begin. First, I think I've shared last week. Um, First, I think in some of the academies, I'm the first one in my family to go to college. In fact, I was the first in my family to graduate high school. My parents went to school up until they were old enough to work. And for them, that meant when they were about 12, 13 years old, they were already working and didn't have the opportunity to finish school. And so I think one of my most excited accomplishments was finishing my high school diploma. And going off to college for me was just the cherry on top. I couldn't believe I was going to these college campuses, receiving a college degree, having a lot of community support. And so it was obviously a very wonderful experience for me. And I think what it also instilled in me was a little bit of fear and anxiety. And my fear and anxiety was I wanted to be sure that my kids had the same opportunity because I knew that my opportunity almost was felt like by chance. I was just lucky that I had community mentors that gave me some direction. Otherwise, I just would not have even thought twice about a college opportunity. And so I share that because my first daughter, her name is Solevad. I call her Sole for short. Ever since she was old enough to walk, I shared with her just the dreams and goals of thinking about college and a career. And as somebody who worked in education, I shared quite a bit with her. And when she was about maybe 5 or 6 years old, we were already visiting college campuses. And so usually summertime was always a great time to go visit a college campus because it wasn't as busy. There was a lot of college tours. We would spend a lot of our summers visiting college campuses. If we went to another state to go visit some family, we would go visit college campuses there. So if we were in Phoenix, we went to Arizona State University. If we were in LA or Texas, we would just visit the local colleges just because we could walk around, or sometimes we'd go on a tour. And when my daughter was old enough to start writing, I thought, wow, this might be a great time for her to interact with the colleges. And one of the assignments that we had for the summer, I don't know if do any of you remember those old Yellow Pages phone books, the old heavy ones? They were maybe about that thick. They maybe weighed about 4 or 5 pounds. The old yellow books that had everyone's phone number. Well, I came across a book that had a list of all of the colleges in the United States. That's community college, four-year college, university, technical, private, public, all of the colleges. It had the list of all of them, their requirements, a little bit of information about them. And one summer, I was telling my daughter Sole, okay, this is, I think, the project for this summer is to think about how do you interact with these schools because they don't know who you are. Um, when you get old enough to turn in an application, you are a stranger. And I wanted her to get used to interacting with these schools. And so one of our assignments was for her to come up with, I believe, about 10 colleges that she could pick anywhere in the United States that you would write a letter to. She would write a letter to their college admissions office and just say, hey, this is who I am. I think at the time she was in middle school, so maybe seventh grade. This is the grade I'm in. These are the things that I'm interested in. Can you tell me a little bit more about your college? And so she spent one summer picking all her schools, writing all these letters. Um, and she had ended up mailing all of these letters. And a few weeks later, some of the colleges actually wrote back to her. Thank you for writing to us. Some of them sent banners and little posters, some flyers about their school. And the picture that you see on the screen is my daughter with that big phone book looking college directory with all the letters that she mailed. And my daughter now, she graduated from the University of Houston about a year ago. And so she was fine. I was really projecting my fears and anxieties that I was worried that she wouldn't be able to make it. She had it all down. Um, but for me, it was just realizing that I didn't need to wait until she was in high school to have these conversations. I didn't need to wait until the high school gave her a college tour or visit a college campus or to have some interaction with the institution. I knew as a parent, I could just do it myself. And so for me, and I think my daughter, because college was just a very normal thing, she graduated high school as a 12th grader. She started college as a 13th grader. It was just a very normal thing. Um, and I share this because I think there are a lot of stories that we have in our community of this academy, where many of you as parents, or maybe your own story going and navigating through college, we have an opportunity to learn from. Um, that's my story, one of my stories. And what I'm hoping to be able to do in the next couple of academies is to have one of you all maybe share a story. It really is just the practice, the art, and really the beauty of just sharing a story. And so just a couple things to say about that is if you have a story that's your own, or if if you're of your children experience with college planning or readiness or something that's related to career planning, or if they've had an internship or a job shadow or a college visit, those stories, we are in a community of a lot of knowledge and experience, and this is an opportunity to share it with each other. So if you have that experience, I'd love to be able to spotlight you to present to our group in session 3 and session 4. What I'm hoping to have is at least one person from each of the academy. I think there will be opportunities to be able to share. So we have 5 academies. It'd be great if we had at least one person from the academy. And what you would do, um, and you can either, we'll send an email reminder, but if you feel really good that you'd love to be able to do something like this, again, 3 to 5 minutes, you can give me a photo, we'll spotlight you on the agenda, and you would be able to share out. You can put that in the chat if you already know you're interested, or you can send Clara or myself an email message. Anything you'd like to add to that, Clara?
Thank you. Yes, and you do have access to our WAPS Natural Leaders email. I'll put it in the chat box right now. But it's the same email that you have received the notices. You can reply to it, and then both Randy and I will be able to receive that information.
Yeah. So thank you for listening to my story, and I hope that we can keep tapping into into many more. Okay, so I'm going to move us along. Um, we're at the second half of our session into this conversation that we've had around this leadership project. So in our session one, we spoke quite a bit that by the end of this academy, there's at least a sense that either you as an individual or with maybe within a group is working towards a project for your school community. And there's a lot of possibilities. I think the important thing to know is, what might that goal be for you? What are the resources and supports available? How are the schools coming in? There's a lot of questions to work through. But to kind of give you a flow of that work and how do we progress towards a project is, in our session one, we spent some time just sharing story. I think that's really important for that relationship building. I think through story, we can really pick up on values, what's important to you, um, what motivates you. This session two that we're in today, we're going to talk a little bit about goal setting. Ultimately, what are we trying to do or to accomplish? Our session three, we'll spend some time on building out some actions around that goal. In session four, we're hoping to invite folks to share out. So our session four we'll have in a few weeks, and as people are working through this, you may be at a point where like, okay, the plan isn't, we're not asking for it to be perfect just yet, but at a place where you feel really good to share to your community. Like, what is the thing that you're working towards? And this is the part that we get really excited about because then we get a chance to work with a lot of your school district leaders, your school building leaders, like your principals, and sharing this information so that we're providing those kinds of supports. Anything you'd like to add, Clara?
No, thank you. I think
Of natural leaders who are sharing out one of their projects. And so I'm going to play a video, and this is at Rose Hill Elementary in Lake Washington School District. And these are natural leaders. These are people who had participated in the training, and sometime after were able to actually put together their plan with the support of WOBS and their school community. Let me know if you don't hear it. Thumbs up is good.
Rose Hill Elementary School's natural leaders hosted a school-wide event called Games Around the World. The idea was born out of the desire to share with the school community an event that embraced and celebrated the diversity of the school population. They set up 8 classrooms, each separated by a country. Parent Tech Night was a workshop designed to teach parents how to navigate the Lake Washington websites, logins, etc., as well as how to access other district-approved websites. In 2018, this was one of 6 workshops that the John Muir Natural Leaders created for families.
Okay. So, there were 2 examples in that video. One was, a tech evening to support families through navigating some of the technology at the school. And the other was, I think it was called Games Around the World, which I thought was like a really cool idea. It kind of reminded me, I don't know if this fits in Games Around the World, but as a kid, I loved playing pencil fight with other friends. We would get in trouble for doing that all the time. which was breaking each other's pencils as little kids would do. But I think, finding ways to bring in people's culture, their identity, and have fun. People who are working on this probably had that as at the forefront, really thinking about what is going to be the thing that people are really going to enjoy and then affirm who they are. And so seeing some of these examples, like, yeah, those are great projects for natural leaders. Yeah. And so getting back to this, so this project, right? Um, the first thing is to think about, ultimately, what is the goal? Because I think starting at the end will give you a chance to think about how do I build everything out to eventually get there. Um, so having the goal plan first helps design that plan of action. Um, so thinking about what it looks like, the time that it takes, all of that becomes really important. Um, what was shared last week, the around the core values is that having that goal in mind gives you a chance to check really early on if it aligns with your core values, with who you are, right? So that you don't go into a project and towards the end you feel like, I don't really feel good about this. So knowing what the end is can be really useful, and that it's and that it's relevant to you and your school community. There may be some projects that for you and your community that you're going to see as not very relevant or as meaningful. And so it coming from you and you working with others becomes really important. But so we saw two examples of some leadership projects that natural leaders took on. But to give you some examples of others, and there's an opportunity to either have a group leadership project or a individual leadership project. So group leadership project examples can be cultural events at the school. They can be possibly starting a parent advisory type of group, maybe starting an affinity group. um, there is a group that had started what they called a cafecito group. And so that's just parents kind of getting together and convening and sharing about their experiences. So those could be possible group leadership projects. And there are, I'm sure, many others. These are just some examples. Individual examples may be, if you are involved in a 504 or an IEP plan, maybe wanting to take a more active role in it as an individual goal might be one for you. Maybe if you're looking to find like additional academic support for your kiddo and you're just needing kind of finding that next step, that can be a very valuable goal. So it's just really trying to think about the personal and the immediate need. And other examples can include if you just decide to join an existing parent advisory group, or examples related to the classroom, such as wanting to bring or help support a guest speaker with the teacher, just some opportunities for kiddos to meet others. And then one that is connected to our organization that we shared a little bit last week was Family STEM Night. So Family STEM Night is led by natural leaders. And so, a number of our districts will be hosting Family STEM Night, oftentimes, and I think almost mostly all, at the elementary schools. And so this is where natural leaders can come in, and you all as new natural leaders, if you've taken an interest in maybe facilitating um, one of those evenings, that would be a great opportunity for some involvement. But ultimately is to try to think about what is the thing that you would like to work towards this year. They don't necessarily need to be big, ambitious ideas, but what you think is important to you and what's also attainable. Yeah. Anything you want to add to that, Clara?
Yeah, I do see that we have some examples in the slide deck in here. And once we finish the presentation, you'll notice that you have this presentation in English, but for families that requested the presentation in other languages, you can also follow along with samples, because I know this slide deck has a lot of good examples in your email as well, and they will be in your home language. I do know that Family STEM Night is one of the it's a really big success for natural leaders. I know that they're coming up for next they're starting in January, but the district are already looking for schools and families that are in leadership positions that would like to host those events. So if you're interested, by all means, let us know. I think it is always amazing to see how families show interest and this is just to make sure this is more geared towards elementary and middle school, but usually more third to fourth and fifth graders. Send us an email because the districts are already looking to see which schools would benefit. And if you're already a natural leader, you do have some opportunity to be able to host those events as well. But yeah, but please, these are only options. There are many opportunities, and I know in our first sessions, I did hear a lot of families that had already an interest as you were joining into the academy. You had many interests into what this academy would make for you in school.
Mhm. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Clara. All right, so we're gonna try our, do you think we're gonna be ready to try a group breakout again?
I
Well,
believe so. This time around, we are going to try by languages. But I do believe our language will be fairly our groups might be fairly big. We have added 6 breakout rooms, one in English, one in Spanish, one in Swahili, one in Arabic, one in Korean, one in Russian, and one in Ukrainian. So for the interpreters please join the home language, the language that you're interpreting to. And if you speak another language other than English that are represented in these groups, we do invite you to join those groups. So if you speak Arabic and English, we invite you to join that group. If you speak Korean and English, we invite you to join the group that speaks Korean as well. That way we have a bigger room. For the biggest number of participants will come in the English speaking group and the Spanish speaking group. I think, and then at this time you will get to choose your group. So make sure that you choose the language that you want to join. So let's try this again. Do you want me to start it, Randy?
yeah, and give me just a second to preface some of these questions. And so what we're going to do into this group breakout is, again, drawing from the conversations that you all had with each other at Academy Session 1. And for a lot of you, the session, the questions were related to relationships, your core values, who you are, what's important to you. And so what we're getting towards as we're getting a chance to learn who we are and share, is then the first question is, was there a common theme from your academy that you kind of heard over and over that was important for families? Were there common stories? So really trying to recall the conversations from last week, and if there were anything that was the themes, things that were said over and over that you realize, what, this thing is really important in my school community. So that's the first question. The second question, are there ideas then about what could be a goal for you, right? A goal, again, related to your school community. And that third question is this a goal that you would want to be involved with others in your academy, or is this an individual goal? Now, we're not finalizing, any of the goal setting. It's just to begin to have a conversation. So once you're in your group and these questions are going to be in the chat, is then just to take turns talking. Now, some of the groups are going to be pretty big, so it might feel kind of awkward just thinking about who talks or who goes first. And I would just encourage you. I think we had somebody who really offered the active participation, right, as a community goal. So use that active participation, actively participate and say, hey, you know what, this is the things that I heard at the academy that I think people were saying. This is what's maybe important to me, and maybe if you have some ideas around a goal for either yourself or you think other people would want to join you. And having that conversation and sharing it, that's a great place to start, right? This is we're just working through some of this. So this is good. We're gonna spend some time in this group. We're gonna spend 20 minutes in this group just to kind of work through it. And it's not going to be perfect, but please engage in the conversation or offer story. And assign your interpreter if you need it. And so, thank you for bearing with us. The large group, I know it can be a bit of a challenge for us, everyone having the opportunity to engage and share is really important. And we know that being in a really large group presents some challenges. And so we're hoping that we can have some of that figured out for our next academy. So thank you for those who did get a chance to share some of your ideas. And for those who, being a speaker doesn't not having an opportunity to speak doesn't mean you were not engaged. Obviously, kind of hearing people's ideas and kind of giving some of them the nonverbal feedback can be also really useful when people are sharing ideas. But what we could spend just a couple of minutes. We had a couple of groups. If anybody would like to share, what did you discuss as a goal? What were some of the things that you were hearing? um, as a goal for your leadership project. We can maybe start there. Were there anything that you had heard or maybe that you shared in your group that you think would be again, I'd love to hear some people share out. Anna, is that your hand that you'd like to share?
And yes, our group was sharing about somebody shared an idea about having a group of parents taking our kids to different colleges and universities, kind of like a field trip, but organized by different parents from different schools or different districts to motivate the kids and get them engaged into their education.
That sounds like a great event. Can you maybe share a little bit why you think, well, why do you think why would that be important for you? Why do you think that would be important for other people? Because I think knowing the why we do things can be really valuable.
Randy, before we move on with you, Anna, can I ask the interpreters to speak louder? I am getting some notes on the chat to speak a little bit louder, please. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Anna.
We thought it was important because that way we start like putting those ideas into the kids' minds that there is opportunity, there is these options, so that way they can see. From my point of view is they can see farther down the road. It's not just getting an A in this class. It's not just passing the class. There is another goal. There is something more towards the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Anna, I also heard I heard the part of going with as a family. So I heard you why it would be valuable for the kids. Why might it be valuable for maybe you or the parents?
It's important for them to know that we are behind them, that we are supporting them, and we're trying to do whatever we can for them. Because for some of us, like for me, the system is new. I didn't grow up here. I'm at the university now, but I didn't go before. So my path is very different from my daughter's path or my son's path that were born here and went to school here. So everybody has different paths. And we can try to teach them, like, it doesn't matter what your path is and where it's going, but we are behind you. We are with you. Mm-hmm. And as a family and also as a community, because they will see that it's a community of other people who might not know the system, but we're trying and we're here.
Yeah. Thank you, Anna. I see Melanie. Yeah. Would you like to share?
I come from an educator background and I was listening in the room and my idea came about as a parent workshop series. With navigating the school system's language, and breaking down those barriers and helping parents connect with teachers and the leaders that are in the building. So sometimes like just communicating might be difficult for parents. And several of them talked about parent involvement, parent communication, and parent workshops, like just navigating the school system. It's difficult.
Hmm. Hmm. I apologize if I pronounced your name incorrectly. Is it Melanie, or I know we had connected at some point. Can you pronounce it correctly?
It's Milani.
Milani, and I appreciate because you have the perspective as an educator, and now it sounds like you're spending more time being a mama, and thank you for bringing your daughter to Academy Session 1 over in Renton. So you have like a really unique perspective, kind of being on both sides, one on behalf of a school building and a whole organization and institution that's serving kids, and then also just as a parent and trying to make that connection. What do you think? You had shared some of the themes that from your group around communication, but what do you think are some of the barriers that maybe the schools intentionally have created, or the design that makes it difficult for that communication piece, or even that connection piece?
I think sometimes communication is one direction
Mhm.
instead of a conversation. And sometimes we're inundated with a lot of communication. So how can we help streamline? So um, there's a twofold type of communication that needs to happen, where training needs to happen with leaders in the building, and it also needs to happen with parents. So how do I communicate as a teacher with the parent? How do I, as a parent, I have 15 minutes and I can't meet with all 8 teachers. So I need to put all of the parents on all of my teachers on one email chain and have them respond back just to that email chain, for updates about my child. But teaching like the secrets to the teachers and to the parents so that now we're communicating on the same level. And those are the things that I heard in the group, just listening to parents. They're new to the community. They also talked about culture. This is a new system for many parents. The diversity here is like, I know at Renton, there's 69 different languages in the building.
Hmm.
And they're coming from all over the world. How do we support our parents and our families that are coming from around the world from different systems, and how can we train them and support them in the American system and help them learn the language? Do we have ESL classes for parents who want to learn English? Just hearing the needs. I taught English for 16 years. I would be happy to host a session, in the evening time, or host it through Zoom, so that parents can do it on their own time. So just thinking about how can we be supportive in our communities and recognize the new cultures and value their backgrounds.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing. We only have about 5 minutes left. I can maybe take one more real quickly. And I see Alvarado. I'm assuming that's the last name, but yeah, if you would have something to share quickly.
Yeah, following up with Milani's parent workshop idea, I feel like a lot of parents are struggling with knowing their children's curriculum. Like I have a sixth grader and a second grader, and my sixth grader, she's doing new math. I have to learn how to do her math to be able to help her with homework. And she has 6 classes, so that's times 6. So I think a lot of parents should learn how to, help out their kids. And I think there's a lot of us who would love to meet up somewhere like the library. It's a safe place. And I understand there's that security issue with meeting up in school. You really never know, who's a parent, who's an intruder. I understand the safety hazard there. But at the same time, I feel like we can probably start having like a parents unite meeting in the library for technical difficulties, like I saw today logging into Zoom and having everybody, figure it out. I think that would be a good start for the next week's meeting.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, a lot of really good ideas. And Clara put a message in the chat for other project goals. Some of the goals that you might have in mind is, please do include them in the chat. I know we just have a couple of minutes. I do want to share at least the connection with the goals that the group is starting to think through. And, again, we have what we call it homework. It really is just an assignment, but is to then think about, what is a goal for you in this leadership project so that when we meet next time, we're going to meet virtually and after our welcome, our check-in, and hopefully we'll have the group um, breakout opportunity. But the question will be in your check-in, what is a goal for you or maybe a goal for your group for this leadership project? And then I think really importantly, why is it important to you? Being able to share the why can be really important and also really powerful that helps influence other people. So that'll be something to work on between now and next Tuesday when we meet virtually. And just to walk us through, where are we at in the academy and in the sessions? We had session 1. Again, we went over community and connections. This session today, we went over community agreements and started to work through some of this leadership project, this leadership skill. Next session, we're going to spend much more time on this leadership project. Okay, now that we're starting to get a better sense of what the goals are, like how do we build the plan around it? And the plan may be, what are the resources I need to have to accomplish this goal? Who is involved? Who are the people that should be involved? Um, how will I know that I'm making progress? Like ultimately this plan that we'll start putting together. And then our session 4, when when we're back in the academy for in person, we'll have the opportunity to share the leadership project. And so for some of the academies, we'll have some of the district leadership that'll be joining us. But this is where the opportunity where we get a chance to like get through the academy and begin to share out. And we'll have some ways to capture this plan of action so that we're also sharing them with school building leaders. All right, so this is, us working through and building towards this project. The last couple things to say, again, when we reconvene in Zoom again, um, uh, logging into Zoom with the same email that you used to register will be really useful for us. What we're going to try to do again is pre-assign the rooms based on the email that you used to register for this academy. So if you're using the same email, then we'll be able to have your room set up in advance. So we're hoping to kind of work past that challenge. So please, again, use the same email. If you're using a device, maybe your kiddo's laptop, just be sure if they use their own email when they use the Zoom application, have the email that you use to register. That will be really helpful. And then just test your connections, make sure everything works well. And we'll be ready to start. And again, we'll have all 5 academies together. So we're pretty excited. I know we reached our time. I'm going to pass it over to Clara if she has any last words. And then as we're closing, if people want to stay behind and if they have a last couple of questions, people are welcome. But I'll pass to Clara.
Thank you. Before everybody heads out, I know that we have initially said have you join us with the email that you registered with. I see that some families are joining from another email, so I want to be able to know that you attended. Please, I just put in the chat box a Google form that will allow me to know that if you that you attended the meeting. I'll put it in again. So just click on that on that form, and if you can fill it out, that way I'm able to account for your attendance, and I don't miss you for sure. But thank you so much. If you're already clicked to it, then we're all set. I think I don't have. I know it's 102, so I already saw 2 of your minutes.
Yeah. And if anybody has any things that you want to stay behind for to ask, please stay behind. Otherwise, everyone else, thank you for joining us for session 2. Thank you for your patience and your compassion. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you very much. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Adiós. Adiós.
Thank you. Bye.
Muchas gracias.
gracias.
Buenas noches.
Thank you. Que tenga linda noche.
Thank you. Bye.
Muchas gracias.
Gracias, buenas
Thank
noches
you.
para
Have a good
todos.
night.
Gracias.